What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Rocco and Ryan MMA show. This is episode 3, and Rocco, as you can tell, is in a little bit of a different area down in the sunshine in Vegas, getting ready for his fight next weekend at UFC 250. Rocco, what's up?
Hey, how's it going, buddy? How you doing?
I'm good. It's great to see you again, and I'm a little jealous where you're at. What's the temperature like?
Oh, it's hot, man. I'm telling you, it's getting up to about 105 during the day. But I've been getting a lot of sun. We're going hiking. Tyson was very adamant. He's like, we need a hot tub. I'm like, Tyson, this is Vegas. I don't think we need a hot tub. And then he's like, no, dude, we need a hot tub. So we end up getting this Airbnb, paying more money for this hot tub. So every night it's still 95 degrees at nighttime. All right, in the dark, 95 degrees. And I'm like, listen, we're going in the hot tub. You made us get the hot tub. We're going in the hot tub. So we're going there every night,
right?
Yeah, we're all pouring sweat and we're all just like how ridiculous this is. But it's been awesome here so far. I've enjoyed it. I'm happy to be here already. I'm glad that I came early.
As I told you before, I lived in California for like 5 years. So I made plenty of trips to Vegas, and I never could get used to just the humid, just how hot it was. You'd be in a casino and then you'd step outside and it's like you're walking into a sauna. It's incredible.
Well, I think because they keep the casinos so cold as well, where it feels twice as hot the second you walk outside. But I don't know. We went hiking. We got lost yesterday. I thought maybe we're going to walk around about 6 mountains to try to get back because we went down the wrong path. And then we went down a path. I don't know if you saw my Instagram story, but we had to help Tyson down. So at that point, we knew there was no way back. So there was only a way forward. But we made it. We survived. I'm here.
Who are you down there with? Obviously, Tyson. Who's your other guy there?
I'm Brock Larson here.
I
know it's from Minnesota, yeah.
Okay, you guys look like you're having a blast. It'd be like a lot of fun to hang out with you guys. I see, like, you guys running around in your underwear. You're scaring one another. I mean, it must be really nice to have two guys like that around you to kind of keep you calm as, you have the biggest fight of your life coming up next week.
Oh, yeah, we're all like grown kids, so it works out really well. We're all trying to pull pranks on each other all day, talking crap all day to each other, and then Tyson's always the one a little bit more reserved, and then so we always talk shit to him, and he's that guy that can take anything and eats it, and he just laughs, and it's been a great time so far.
Does anybody get scared easily? Like, have you been able to really spook anyone, or are all you guys pretty not getting spooked too easily?
Well, we could scare Tyson at any time we want, I think. Right when he walked in to the Airbnb, I was hiding around the corner, and he came in. I jumped out on him, and he's like, "Darn, I knew you were going to do something." It's
The funniest thing ever, when I was playing football in high school, I went to pick up my buddy, and I had this terrifying monkey mask. And I knew he was upstairs getting ready, and he would blast his heavy metal music like at the toppest level you can ever imagine. So you couldn't hear anything, but I was stomping around, making a bunch of noise downstairs, and he came downstairs, and he's like, hello? He's like, Ryan, is that you? And I jumped out from the couch, and I had this mask on. He was so scared, the towel that was around him, covering himself, it fell down, and he went darting up the stairs, just terrified like a little girl. It was hysterical. That's the best I've ever got anyone, and no one ever does it to me.
No, all my girlfriends get so mad at me and the ex-wife and stuff, because I'm definitely a prankster, and I can't stop. I have no shut-off valve. That's the problem. Like, the second that I feel like there's some kind of like weakness to your fear, I just think it's funny. I don't know why. I'm just sick in the head or something, but I just think it's hilarious.
Hey, as you know, I like to laugh, so no harm there. I like where your head's at. Now, obviously, for everyone that's tuning in, they're here to talk some MMA, and there's a lot to get to. Obviously, your card isn't until next week, so episode 4, we'll dive into that and talk about that matchup with Neil Magny and just that card in general. But a lot of topics right now currently going on in today's MMA world Saturday night, you got Woodley versus Burns, and that's another interesting card as well. But some things right off the bat, the first news topic that really stuck out to me, Rocco, was Colby Covington leaving ATT. And he didn't leave quietly. He had some serious words for Masvidal, for Dustin Poirier, for Joanna Jędrzejczyk. I mean, and he really slammed them. What's your overall take on that?
Well, I mean, I kind of have some of the inside info. You know what I mean? Like I was talking to some people that kind of knew. I knew maybe a month or so ago that this was transpiring. You know, this was right away when Dan released the thing that you're not allowed to talk crap to any of your teammates anymore. Then Masvidal came out and had that video right away talking crap to Colby. And then what was Colby supposed to do? He's not going to sit there and not say nothing after he's saying all that crap again, right? And so he talked shit. So then I guess Dan kicked them both out until they resolved the issue. And he's like, listen, you both got to leave. And then from what I've heard is that there just were, Dan wanted them to both meet with him at the same time and have a sit down and squash the beef. And Masvidal and them weren't willing to do it. So he wasn't going to let either one in, but then I think that Colby was just like, nah, I'm just going to go my own way. So then Colby's like, nah, I'm done, then I'll just go my own way. And then they're like, all right, so then they let Masvidal back in. So from what I've understood, that's kind of how it played out. But I disagree with it. Just because, again, I've said it before, that you don't get to create a monster and then turn your back on him. That's Dan and those guys created Colby, you know what I mean? They got him to open up and start talking shit the way he talks it, and it was all in from that before the Damian fight. You know, that the UFC was talking about cutting him a little bit no matter what, if he won or lost. And then so they devised a plan to create a monster, and now you're stuck with that monster. But I guess, you know, they turned his back on him. I don't know if that's exactly how you want to call it, but that's what I see. You know, I think that you can't be like, hey, make him say all this crazy shit and then put a muzzle on him. So I think he's just too far in. You know, he can't back out now. You know what I mean? So it's kind of one of those things that hopefully it works out best for him. I don't think it's gonna be any drop off for him personally. You know, personally, I think that he's always trained with the only people that he wants to train with, and he's just a cardio freak. So it's kind of like those things where as long as he's getting in the training, then he'll be all right.
Where does he go from here? I mean, is there a place that you can imagine him going and setting up camp and having a certain couple of training partners?
Yeah, I think that he kind of talked about where he'll probably set his own thing up. You know, I think he'll have a couple, maybe a boxing gym that he works out at, and then he'll probably have his own little tiny spot or something like that where he brings some people in. Then he obviously does his strength and conditioning. So, I mean, I don't think there's going to be much of a fallout other than if mentally this is hurting him, you know, because he does seem like he is into his feelings a little bit, you know, and but we'll see how the next fight comes out. But I think that I would be shocked to see much of a drop off.
Who do you think he would bring in? Any names, any in the MMA world that you feel like would be a good match for him, or that he still has a good relationship with, that he can train with and get that work in?
I mean, nothing's jumping out to me. You know what I mean? I think that he would be mostly, obviously depends on who he's fighting. He'd probably always bring a wrestler in, I'm sure. So he's probably got some wrestling connections that he would reach out to. And then what do you need? You really only train with 2, 3 people at camp anyway. So it's kind of one of those things where he's got the money now where he could bring in guys, and hopefully he surrounds himself with the right people though, you know, and not thinking it's, you know, all on his shoulders to coach himself and do all that. If he does that, then I can see a major drop off. But he needs someone to run at least be a word of reason and someone that's going to genuinely care about his well-being. Or I would see that could be a slippery slope to not being the greatest for his career long term. But it sounds like I don't know if he wanted to stick around the longest either. You know, he keeps talking WWE, so I don't know if he's just trying to keep building his name, until the point where WWE offers him a contract or something, then he's gone. I think I could see that being something that he would rather go that route, I think.
I totally can see him in the WWE full time. I think when he gets done it with MMA, that's the perfect route for him, because his shtick and I feel like no one's Chael Sonnen. Like, Chael Sonnen is like in a different category with how he talks, and then Conor McGregor's over here. I mean, but Colby's funny. I like Colby's shtick, and I think that he would be perfect in the WWE. Rocco, everyone's talking about who should Kamaru Usman fight next? Who should the champ fight next? Is it Masvidal? Is it McGregor? You know what I want to see? I want to see Colby Covington versus Jorge Masvidal next. That's the fight that I want to see, with that bad blood there, the falling out, former teammates, two top guys in the division. I feel like those two fight, and the winner could take on Usman. What do you think of that?
I agree. I agree, man. I think that it's the right fight, but I just don't. The only thing is that I know what you're saying, but I just don't like overlooking this Leon Edwards at all. You know what I mean? I feel like he's put in so much work and done the right things. You know what I mean? He's won all his fights. He's done the right steps. He had that tough fight with Usman already, but it was like 3-4 years ago. And it's like, the guy, at some point, when you get what you deserve? You know what I mean? And it's a thing where it would suck to see him on the shelf for another year, because these champions aren't trying to be that active. You know what I mean? And that's the thing that I feel like is hurting every division. I feel like every division's getting hurt a little bit, because they're just not fighting as often as they need to fight. But with that said, Colby versus Masvidal, right? That'd be everything that you could want, with all the drama, all the shit talking, and both world-class fighters. But I truly, genuinely believe that Colby and Usman are 1 and 2, and I wouldn't be opposed if they're trying to. I don't have any interest in seeing Conor fight Usman. I'd rather see Colby get in there with Usman again. This way, it's like, all right. I mean, you lose. If Colby loses, then it's like, all right, you know that it's, you got to find a new path or do something. You know what I mean? Because your path to the title is probably gone for at least a couple of years, and we don't have to listen to that anymore. Or he wins, and then might be talking a trilogy. Who knows? But it was a great fight the first time around. But I would like to see Masvidal versus Leon Edwards personally. I think that Masvidal hit those cheap shots on him. If I was Leon Edwards, I would have been looking for Masvidal to this day. There's no way you come up and start sucker punching me like that. Yeah, I'm in Miami right now looking for you. So I mean, I thought I'm serious. I was like, even to this day, I'm just like, nah, he did Leon dirty, and got away with it, and was allowed to punk him and not give Leon any revenge. You know what I mean? And I thought that was disrespectful on the UFC's part, and disrespectful on Masvidal's part, and I would be looking for him.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And obviously, Masvidal became even more famous after that with the 3-piece and soda. Yeah. You know what I would like to, if I agree with you about Edwards and Masvidal, that fight would be great. You could match Edwards and Usman right now, and then have Colby fight Masvidal, and then the winners fight. That way, everyone wins.
I agree. I think that if you're looking at it as what's right? If you look at it what's right, I agree that that's the right thing to do. But the UFC thinks money, which sucks, because now you have Conor, who's never beat a 70-pounder. Nate doesn't even beat 70-pounders. I'm looking at Nate's record. Look at Nate's record. He beat Anthony Pettis and Conor McGregor. Those are 55-pounders and 45-pounders. They're not 70-pounders. We're talking about Conor's fighting Cowboy, and Dana's coming out and saying, listen, they're both 55-pounders, but they don't want to cut weight, so we're going to let them fight at 70. Now all of a sudden Conor is in the 70-pound rankings. So I'm just like, neither one has fought a real 70-pounder, and neither one has beaten a real 70-pounder for 8-9 years. You know what I mean? I don't know the last time that Nate's actually won a 70-pound fight versus a 170-pounder, but I think what right would be Leon Edwards I agree. Leon Edwards versus Usman. And then you have Colby versus Masvidal, which I think is a true number one contender fight. I do agree. I always think that if you lose, you should have to win one more fight. I think that Colby, if he beats Masvidal, has no question for being in the next title shot.
How does that fight end? Colby Masvidal, who wins? I'm thinking based on what you said previously, you got Colby.
Yeah, I think that Colby could. I mean, unless Masvidal knocks him out, but I think that Masvidal would have to knock him out. I don't think he could beat him in a decision, and I don't think he could win rounds. I don't think he doesn't have the. The only thing is that they used to train together all the time. You know what I mean? So they may know each other a little bit. And you got to realize that Colby came in and Masvidal was the man, and they were like boys, like really tight. Like these guys were inseparable, you know what I mean? And you don't know if that could be in someone's head. Like maybe that's in Colby's head where he's like so used to where back in the day that Masvidal beat the crap out of him all the time, where he goes in the fight thinking they get in certain situations that he normally would fight out of, and he folds because of that. But I would say maybe, if I had to throw out some Vegas odds, I'm thinking like plus 190 or plus 195 or something like that for Colby.
Wow. Okay.
Minus 195. Sorry.
Right.
Minus 195.
Yeah. I knew where you were going with that.
Yeah.
I've seen some videos in the past too of them wrestling or whatnot, and from what I saw, it looked like Colby was getting the better of Masvidal. Obviously, that's not in the octagon; it's different, but still, I want to see that fight. That's the fight for me, and I totally 1,000% agree with you about Conor McGregor. I saw a tweet you made fairly recently saying, Usman would run right through him. I agree. Conor McGregor needs to go back down to 55 and try and get a rematch with Khabib eventually. You want to cement yourself as one of the GOATs, which is Conor is saying, beat Khabib. Go back down, try and beat Khabib. What I'd like to see is I want to see Conor give Dustin Poirier a rematch. I think they fought previously. Poirier wasn't as good then as he is now, and I think that would make a lot of sense, and I think it would get a lot of people eyeballs on that fight as well. But Conor at 170, I'm with you. I don't buy it.
It doesn't make sense to me. The whole thing doesn't make sense to me. It's getting a little out of hand, I would say. I think it's time for Dana to be like, listen, you've already moved up to 55, so I know that, and you're too small for 70. You can see it on him. Like he acts like he's big and stuff. He looks like he's puffed out with like so much water in his body that it's like, listen, it's time for you to start leaning out again. And he looked good at 55, man. He did look good. I mean, I even rewatched the Khabib fight, and I don't think that was 100% Conor in there. I think that he was partying a lot and doing a lot of extracurriculars. Where I'm like, he actually didn't look bad. He had good takedown defense, relatively. Like for anyone that's going against Khabib, he was doing, you know what I mean? Like Khabib Ragdoll and Dustin Poirier in grappling. He wasn't doing that to Conor like that. You know what I mean? Until Conor started getting tired and fatiguing. But even still, I was like, Conor did a lot better than a lot of people have done versus Khabib. And I think that if he went in full-headed, that it'd be a lot more exciting fight. But I still, again, believe he needs to earn that title shot. It's time. Him and Dustin would be a great fight, very exciting fight with history, and Dustin definitely moved up to 55 and has looked 100% different outside the Johnson fight. So I would love to see that rematch and see him go and fight Khabib.
Now, earlier today, Rocco, Conor accepted on his Twitter a fight against Anderson Silva at a catchweight bout, which I get it for fans. I mean, two great stand-up fighters, but like, come on. I mean, I think this is what, the detractors of the sport of MMA, people that say, oh, they don't give it the respect that, we both know it deserves. It's things like this. Like, I don't want to see that fight. I mean, the size difference is enormous. Granted, they're both stylistically, phenomenal stand-up fighters. But Anderson Silva, even north of 40 years old, is just too big for McGregor. Am I crazy?
No, it's a publicity thing. I mean, it's obviously Anderson wants money, and Conor is not going to back down to a challenge. I mean, I do think that Conor probably would fight him if he really was offered the right paycheck. You know what I mean? I think he would really get in there and fight him. But I honestly, like you said, I think that, I don't know, man. I think that Conor would have a lot of trouble hitting his face. You know what I mean? And that's like his knockout. He's got such good knockout power. I think he'd be reaching too much, and I don't think it's a great matchup. And it just would not make any sense in any sense of the world. I think it's all just publicity. I think he's just trying to get likes, just trying to get those likes up, just get people talking. He does anything to keep his name in the media, and guess what? Everyone talks about him. So
yeah, just like we're doing right now.
That's right.
So you're probably right on point there. Now, another fight that's been rumored, we've hit upon it before, but it looks like Dana White put the kibosh to it. It's not going to happen, is Jon Jones and Francis Ngannou. To me, that's disappointing because I really wanted to see Jon Jones go up to heavyweight at some point. I mean, I do think he has some unfinished business at 205 with his last couple of matchups, very, very close fights against Santos and in his last matchup. Why am I having a brain fart? Reyes. Geez. You know, but ultimately I do want to see him up there fighting Ngannou. Do you think eventually we're going to see all those matchups of Jones versus those heavyweights that we want to see?
I think that Jones, if Stipe beats DC again, I could see Jones trying to fight Stipe. I think that Stipe is a better matchup for Jones than Ngannou. Yeah, I think Ngannou. I think so just because of he stands a little bit more. He fights more of like a real fight. You know what I mean? Like Stipe fights like an MMA fight. Ngannou goes in there and like fucking tries to absolutely destroy you. You know what I mean? So it's not that I'm saying that because Stipe's already beaten Ngannou. So I'm not saying that Stipe's not a better fighter than Ngannou. I think that It's a matchup type of fight where Stipe will fight more of an MMA fight. And I think anytime you fight an MMA fight with Jones, that he's definitely got, I think, an advantage. And I think that the scary part with Ngannou is that I think that Ngannou touches him, he might die.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Ngannou, I think, would go in that fight knowing he's got to touch him, and like he did last fight, just comes plowing forward. And granted, Jones is very good at being elusive and moving, and he's not scared to run away, kind of. But I'm like, all it takes is one of those shots. You know, Stipe has power, but he's going to stay a more methodical type of fight.
Yeah.
So I think that I lean towards Jones would rather fight Stipe, and it's for the belt.
You know what I think? As you know, being in the game for as long as you have, MMA is not an easy sport. I mean, you take your lumps, and over a long period of time, you're in there, you take enough damage, you're just not going to be as good as you were when you were younger, you know, especially when you're fighting the best of the best. And honestly, maybe I'm wrong, but I'm starting to see some cracks in Jon Jones' game. I feel like he hit his peak a while back. And I feel like now he's starting to go on that decline. I feel like it will be best for him if I was his coach or his manager, someone advising him to stay put at 205 and just try and win as many as you can there and then go out on top, because I feel like if he does go up and fight some of these guys, heavyweights, like you said, one touch and boom, your night is over. And I feel like he might be running into some problems at heavyweight at this stage of his career. I don't feel like he would have maybe a couple of years ago. I feel like he still could have gone in there because, I mean, he walks around at 240 anyways. Right. But I don't know. I'm thinking that we've seen the best of Jon Jones, and I think you're going to start to see that accumulative damage present itself inside the octagon here moving forward.
No, I agree. I think that, well, I mean, obviously, I associate it more to PEDs. I do think he was cheating. He's obviously popped out a couple of times. And I do think that he was a cheater, you know, and it's proven that he was a cheater. It's not even just my thought. I'm not even speculating. It's a proven fact. So I do think that you have seen a major drop off in his output, in his even in his creativeness. I feel like he's dropped a little bit, you know, and I think that more consists of him just trying to conserve energy, where, you know, you watch him coming up, man, that guy was like, he was so dangerous because he was throwing elbows from everywhere and was this very creative fighter, was coming in with flying knees about 15 times a fight and was just out wrestling people like crazy, would be tossing them. now I think that it's more of a, obviously age and experience. I think he's learned to be able to conserve energy better, but I don't think he had to conserve before. I think because he was on so many PEDs. But I think that he would be fine at heavyweight. I do, just because he's so long and he's a long distance striker. You know, he's not an inside the pocket brawler like these guys. So, and he's a guy that likes to hit and not be hit, which matches up very well at heavyweight, I think. And I think that they're less athletic. Anytime you go up, I think that most 205ers can beat the heavyweights. Is my personal opinion.
Well, you know, it's funny because, Rocco, anytime I feel like I have a point and I feel like I'm making it and I sound good, then you turn me around a little bit. So congratulations again. You make a lot of sense. Let's talk about a couple of smaller fellas that are going to be having some title fights here coming up soon. You know, a lot of people really don't agree with this title matchup between Petr Yan and Jose Aldo, but it looks like that's what is going to transpire here. What do you think of that, the UFC's decision to have that be for, the vacant belt now, and who do you think wins?
Yeah, man, I was just thinking about it kind of, and the problem that they ran into, this is what they ran into, is that you offered Aldo the fight versus Cejudo. He took it. He did everything in his power to make the fight, right? He was going to get there. He was going to show up. He was ready. The world pandemic hits, and Aldo can't get here. So it's not his fault that he couldn't get here, right? It's this world pandemic. So it's kind of hard to be like, even though I didn't think that Aldo deserved that title shot, right? But now it's like, all right, now you vacate the belt. How can you say like, hey, we would be able to get you to the fight, but we're not going to offer you the fight again? And so that's the part that the UFC ran into, was they have to make the fight happen. And Petr Yan is a guy that I think that he doesn't maybe – he's a very good fighter, very skilled fighter, and he doesn't have those big names on his resume. But I think he's one of those guys that has been victim to guys not wanting to fight him. I think that he fell victim to these guys really not wanting to fight him. So, you know, that's a big fight, man. I think that I truly think that Aldo still gives a lot of people matchup troubles at 135. And I actually had Aldo beating Cejudo at that weight class because of how good his takedown defense is and how long and strong he is. But Petr Yan's good, man. I think that as long as Peter doesn't get knocked out, that he wins the fight.
Wow. Well, it's going to be an interesting stylistic matchup, that's for certain. I am very much looking forward to that fight. Another fight that I'm looking forward to that was just announced earlier today, I'm not sure if it was confirmed, but I believe it's in the works of being made, is a featherweight title rematch between Volkanovski and Holloway. I like it. I feel like Max really has done a lot for that division. I like him getting this rematch here. Do you think he comes in and gets a win, or do you think Volkanovski is and still?
I mean, I'm going to have to rewatch it a couple times, you know what I mean, before I make my final verdict. But it's hard to not root for Max Holloway, you know? He seems like a genuinely good dude, and seems like he puts the time in. He's stuck to his Hawaiian roots, hasn't left, stayed there, stepped up, tried to fight Khabib on, 1 week notice. I mean, the guy's got big balls, you know, getting there with Dustin when Dustin had all that power. And, you know, he took a lot of damage in that Dustin fight. You know what I mean? He took a lot of damage in that Dustin fight. So I was like, don't know if that played a little bit of a part in that title fight with Volk, but I don't want to take anything away from Volkanovski. But I do think that Max has a little bit better arsenal on him outside of power. You know, he doesn't have the biggest power, but I think it's a good fight. You know, I think that's a good fight. And it's the right fight to make. Max has been there for a long time, and he deserves that instant rematch. And you still have some very exciting fights at 45. Hopefully this opens the door for my boy Kelvin. You know, hopefully him versus Ortega or something like that, and could possibly get him to sneak in the title shot here in a fight or two.
Yeah, no doubt. I can't wait to see what's next for Kattar. He really had such a great performance against Jeremy Stephens, and he deserves someone ahead of him in the rankings to get that shot, to climb up and maybe get that #1 contendership title shot. So we'll see what happens here moving forward. Obviously, Rocco, this weekend is another fight night card at the Apex. Are you going to be there? You're going to be there watching?
No, we're not. We're not. No one's allowed in. No, nothing's allowed in. You're going to be walked in pretty much. Only people that right before your fight, you'll be warming up, and then that's it. Then you're gone. You literally fight, you do your media, and then you leave right away.
Wow.
So no, I won't be there, but we'll be at the house here. We got ESPN here. We're gonna set it up, be watching. I'm excited. I think that Burns versus Woodley is a huge step up for Burns. I didn't like exactly what Burns said a little bit in his lead up to the fight, but I semi agree with it. You know what I mean? But I didn't like it that much. It made me think that maybe lean towards Woodley actually.
All right, well, we're back now. Rocco's phone overheated in the beautiful Vegas weather. So now we're going to restart that last question here, talking about what Gilbert Burns said about Woodley here leading into this fight. So elaborate on that, Rocco.
Yeah, so I remember I saw something where Burns said pretty much he was insinuating that if Woodley beats me, it doesn't mean anything. If I beat Woodley, it means everything, kind of. And I was kind of like, you're supposed to be the number 5 or number 6 guy in the world. So now you're saying a win over you means nothing. Was kind of in my brain, I was like thinking that almost a little self-doubt by saying that. You know what I mean? Because he's got Woodley beats you, he's got a title shot. I don't know what you're talking about. He's fighting for the title after that, no matter what. He's next in line. All he needs is one win, and he's next in line. So that was the part I just didn't like, was almost seemed like a little bit of self-doubt. And for that, swayed me to believe that he's doubting himself going into the fight. And I believe that Woodley's going to win.
They both have a similar opponent, a guy that you know pretty well, Damian Maia. Woodley fought him to a decision win, and Burns finished him. Do you feel like stylistically these guys they match up? And pretty. I think it's gonna be an even fight, to be honest with you.
Yeah, no, I think that. So that's what I was looking at. Stylistically, like if you want to look at the Damian fight really quick, right? I felt like Damian was landing shots. On both guys, actually. He was landing on Woodley a little bit too, but Damian never got close to taking down Woodley, and he got a hold of Burns, and I was shocked at how easily he took down Burns. Even though I don't think Woodley's going to take down Burns, I just don't think that Burns could take down Woodley. So then it comes down to just straight striking, and I do think Burns looks all right, but I don't think that he's as good of a striker as he believes. I don't think he's that long, and I think he's short as well, kind of like probably like the same stature as Woodley, and I think that Woodley knocks him out with the overhand, and I do think that it's a bad matchup for Burns unless Burns can really put a pace on him. I don't know how good Burns' cardio is. We haven't really got to see him in like a grinding war since he's been at 170. So that part will be interesting just to see if his cardio can hold up. Because I think for him to beat Woodley, he's going to have to put a pace on him to make him bold.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting matchup. For me, I'm curious your thoughts on this. I feel like when I watched Tyron Woodley in there with Usman, I felt like Usman stole a little bit of Woodley's soul in that fight. He just didn't look like the same killer that we saw previously. And I'm interested to see if that's going to translate to his next couple of fights moving forward. Are we going to see the Woodley of old, or are we going to see a more tentative fighter like we did when we saw him fight Usman?
No, I agree. I think that Usman definitely outclassed him, and I don't think there would be much of a difference in a rematch. Going into the fight, I said the same thing where I thought that Woodley's only chance is to knock him out in one shot, because I don't think I think Colby and Usman are just bad matchups for Woodley. I think that they're they're Woodley's kryptonite because they're heavy pressure and good wrestling. And I think that Woodley likes to stay on the outside, kind of wait, and then explodes in. But they don't let you sit on the outside because they're in your face. And so going into that fight, I knew it was a bad matchup for him. And I don't see much of a difference if they fight again. But I do think that if he wins versus Burns, he probably gets a title shot.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens. I'm excited for this fight. I have to be totally transparent here. When I'm looking at this card compared to the one that you're on next weekend, this one, it doesn't get me quite as excited as UFC 250. The co-main event is Ivanov versus Augusto Sakai. That's a heavyweight bout. A couple of heavy hitters in there. I mean, I always like watching the big boys throw down. One fight that really stands out to me that I'm excited to watch is Roosevelt Roberts and Brock Weaver. Do you know anything about those two guys, and what do you think is going to be the outcome there?
Yeah, both really, really, really tall guys for the division, and big guys, good guys. I feel like kind of like similar types. It's going to be an interesting fight. I don't know. That's a hard one to pick, but I've met Roberts a few times. So if I had to lean somewhere, that's probably who I'd lean with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, fair enough. I can't wait for that fight. I think it's going to be a banger, and I'm really excited to see McKenzie Dern fight again for a couple of different reasons. She's a great fighter, and I think she's kind of easy on the eyes, and she's fighting Cyphers, a girl that's very skilled herself. What do you see there happening?
I mean, obviously, it's just interesting to see how McKenzie looks after having the baby, how the training's going, and it's always that those parts are interesting, but I was seeing a little bit that Cyphers might be a killer, man. It might be it's an interesting fight, but that when someone has such high level grappling and jiu-jitsu, that mostly in a women's division, but McKenzie, she brawls too, man. She comes out swinging, so it's an interesting fight. I always think that it's an interesting matchup. And I probably would lean towards her because I know that the UFC wants her also to be a star, So I think that I would definitely lean her way.
Yeah. Another women's fight, Katlyn Chookagian versus Antonina Shevchenko. That's really exciting. I feel like this could be a marquee fight. I feel like the UFC is really pushing both of these ladies to become stars. I mean, Shevchenko, obviously her sister. For my money, I mean, I think she's the one person who might actually be able to beat the double champ in Nunes. She's fought her twice to a couple of close fights, decisions. So I'm excited to see this one as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think she just fought Shevchenko, Chookagian. You're gonna have me pronouncing names like that. But it's interesting it's kind of funny how they match her up with her sister right away. So it's an interesting matchup. But I lean her way on this fight. I lean her way on this fight. And I don't agree with Shevchenko being able to beat Nunes. I think it's a stylistic thing where I think it's a stylistic fight for them is why the fights have been so close. Mm-hmm. Is that stylistically they match up kind of weirdly. But I'm like, in my head, I'm looking at like Shevchenko fight Joanna. And I'm like, you put Amanda in there with Joanna, and I'm telling you right now that Amanda will kill her. I don't care you absolutely murder her, and it wouldn't leave probably the first round. And that's not talking any crap to Joanna. I'm just saying that Amanda's that good and big. I think that Shevchenko is just a weird matchup for Amanda, where because she's kind of more of like this really good point fighting. Anytime you land something, boom, she instantly returns, which makes it a close fight. I believe personally that Amanda's a way better fighter.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, Amanda's the greatest female fighter that we've ever seen. I love Shevchenko. I really enjoy watching her fight. I love her striking skill set, and she's a class act. So I would like to see her get another crack at Amanda eventually. But we're getting to watch her younger sister compete this Saturday at the Apex. A couple of prelim matchups I'm looking forward to. You got Tim Elliott making his return to the cage against Brandon Royval, and then Casey Kenny and Luis Smolka. So there are some good matchups here come this fight night of Woodley versus Burns. Is there one in particular that, outside of anything that I've mentioned, that really stands out to you? Obviously the main event, but is there any other fight that you're just really looking forward to?
Well, I mean, both those fights right there, I think are matched up to be high-paced, exciting fights. You know, I mean, I think that if you enjoy fighting, you're going to enjoy those fights. And I think that sometimes you may not have that name value out there, but they set up to be some of the best fights there are. You know, and obviously, I always like watching Tim Elliott. You know, get in there. He's a very game opponent. Always comes out with the scrap and does some funky things sometimes. So it's he's definitely probably the one that I'm looking forward to watching, just because he's just that one guy where you're just like, yeah, I got a scrap, you know.
Mm-hmm. You ever thought about growing your hair out into a mullet like Tim Elliott?
Yeah, I thought about it, but then I slapped myself and said, listen, don't think anything stupid like that again.
Yeah, you know, I like the shortcut. It looks good on you. I want to mention a couple of things here for us that we're going to do moving forward to implement into this show. I've done the Sea-Dog Dominant Performance of the Month here regionally, but I do want to do that with you as well. So we'll incorporate that into the show where we'll pick our most dominant performances of the month, and we'll talk off the air, rank them 1 through 5, and then give our viewers a chance to get them right. If they put them in order the way that we agree on it, they'll have a chance to win a Sea-Dog gift card. So that'll be an exciting little wrinkle that we can add into the show. And then I was thinking about something else that we could do that would make a lot of sense. And who doesn't like some R&R, right? Obviously, you need to have some Rocco and Ryan in your life, but I'm talking about some rest and relaxation, you know? And I think we could do a segment where which fighter after each card needs a little rest and relaxation after getting in there and competing inside the octagon. So we can talk about that as well. You know, who needs a little time off to recoup there. So I think that will be a fun little addition as well.
Awesome.
Another great show is in the books. This is episode 3, and we'll look forward to seeing everyone for episode 4 right before Rocco fights Neil Magny.
Yes, sir.